and welcome. Today I wanted to share a simple little video on how I made these tags using vintage flashcards. As you see there, I have a bunch of these and I decided to take on this little project with some Tim Holtz photos, and I'll get to that in just a moment. But I experimented with some before I started recording, and here's how I started out. I made some strong tea, and the flashcard on the left there has not been dipped in the tea, and the one on the right was. So I just dipped them just as you see there in a little bowl of my tea. I use black tea and I brew it really strong and then let it cool, of course, and then use it after that. So I'm just going to let that card dry and continue working on some other cards that are already dry. I'm going to clean up my area. While I do that, I will also mention that this video is in response to the prompt for the Mixed Media Emporium group that I am coordinating. The prompt this week is reuse, recycle, repurpose, or use your scraps. So I am reusing scraps of paper and fabric and my flashcards. These are the Tim Holtz photos I mentioned previously, and they're really nice, but they are glossy, and so I wanted to make them a little more vintage looking. So I decided to try putting tea bags over the top of some of them. I tried different ways of distressing them. So that one I'm showing you had a tea bag that I attached. That one I decided to try tissue paper and see how that worked. It worked okay. The photo is a little bit more obscured than the tea bag, but it works. And then just showing you that I also distressed it a little more with some brown distress ink. That's the ink that I used, and a little tool to put some more brown over the top of it. It was very white, which is the reason why I did that, because the tissue paper is obviously white. Anyway, and then with that photo, I dipped it right in the tea just to see how that would look, and that worked fairly well too. So I tried these 3 different methods just to give you all some options, and I also, of course, wanted to see for myself how they worked. I've pulled out some paper scraps, fabric scraps, some lace scraps, things like that. I have some flowers that you can see on the top left side of the screen, and I also have some tags that you can, or not tags, but labels that you can see, that you can't see. Sorry. It's off camera, but anyway, this is how I attached the tea bags, the tissue paper as well, with some matte medium. You can use Mod Podge, you can use a glue stick really to attach the tea bags or the tissue paper. I usually use a brush to spread the matte medium on, but sometimes I get lazy and I just use my finger to spread it on. Just lay down the tea bag, and then I put more matte medium over the top. I straighten it out, smooth it out. You can leave little creases if you want. That's how with the tissue paper, it's almost impossible to not have creases. So that one has a few, and I don't mind that look either. So again, just spreading the matte medium over the top. I used a bit too much there, but it dries clear, so it'll be fine. So I'm going to set that one to the side to dry as well, and continue on with the photos and cards that I have already prepared. I'm just going to clean up my area, smoothing that out a little more. I'm just going to clean up my area so I can continue and not get things all messy. So the next part of this process is deciding which fabric or paper I'm going to use and which photo I'm going to use. This is really very subjective. I just try a lot of different options, and I just settle on something that seems right to me, that I like the way it looks. And so I just try different backgrounds, different photos, different little scraps of fabric, things like that. I'm going to do that step next, and then I'll add other items later. I do possibly add the labels or look at which labels I might add at this point too, because I put maybe some or all of, I can't even remember now, some of the labels. See, there's a label under the photo, so I have to decide which label I'm going to use before I glue everything down, obviously. And that little scrap that I have there in my hand on is just some cheesecloth. I get that at the grocery store, and I really like the way that looks. It's an off-white one. You can get it in off-white or white, and sometimes I dye that as well with tea or other colors. So I am also deciding on some flowers to use. I just try different things, and again, whatever strikes me as looking the best, that's what I use. Now, that photo happens to be one that I didn't distress, and don't ask me why. I thought that, that worked well. So I've decided on that arrangement, and the yellow in the flower also goes well with the yellow in the dragonfly or butterfly in the label. So I decided, in the meantime, I've glued all that stuff down that you see there, but I've also decided to add a button to the cheesecloth because I thought it was a little plain and getting lost there. So I just sewed a little button onto the cheesecloth, and then I'm attaching it with my glue stick. So I use my glue stick a lot. Some people don't like glue sticks because they think that they don't work as well. So please use whatever glue you like. I use, glue stick and then some stronger glues at times. It just depends on the project that I'm working on. Okay, so now I'm going to work on the one that I had started before I started recording. And I decided that yellow flower looked nice there, and I had already glued down a label, as you see under the photo, and that was a slightly different label. Now, another thing I thought of using, but I didn't, is some postage stamps I thought might work with this kind of project. There are lots of different things that you can use instead of flowers or instead of labels. Use whatever you have and whatever is available to you. You can cut out images from magazines, books, things like that. Now I'm going to work on the rest of my cards and photos that I have prepared, and I'll be back to show you how those turn out. And there we have it. I am now going to add some tabs to the tops of these, and I have these already cut out so that I have them available when I make tags. And to be honest, I just obsess over this part on and on and on, and I've cut this short so that you don't have to go through all that. But trust me, this went on for quite a while, trying every different tab until I finally decided, made some decisions on which ones to use, and I just use a staple to attach them. You can also use glue if you want to, and I also used my brown distress ink along the edges of each card because I wanted to add a little more grunginess, and I usually like to add that dark sort of frame on the edges of a lot of my projects. So here's how my cards turned out. As you can see on that one, I used a butterfly, and I decided when I had glued everything down that they needed just a little bit more, so I did some sewing on each one, just one line of zigzag stitching on each one where I felt that it looked the best. So that's my project. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.